So this is like the rescue or the potential for helping ourselves move along and not getting lost. So first of all, we can admit to ourselves where we are. You know, taking a clear-eyed look. So admit to ourselves where we are. Sometimes that's a challenging step. And actually, they're not really steps. They're more like actions, because we might kind of go back and forth. It's not like we do one and then we're done and we never do it again. There are actions that we take and we keep choosing in our lives. So we might admit to ourselves where we are, accept what is, while knowing it is temporary. So everything we're experiencing in this life is just here for a while. Sometimes we forget that. And allowing what we desire to come to us. Dr. Carroll was quoted this morning, and Dr. Carroll used to always say, we cannot prevent our good from coming to us, but we can put up a good fight. So we want to allow our good to come to us. So let's start with admitting to ourselves where we are now. So a way to begin is to take inventory. Take a clear look at our relationships, our work, and the conditions we are experiencing, and check in to see if that is really what is our heart's desire. Is it still a fit? A powerful way to do this is to observe our prevailing thoughts. 2 weeks ago, my Science of Mind 102 students, some of you may be in the crowd this morning, I know I saw Dee over there and some others. A powerful way to do this, so they had an assignment to observe, they had a worksheet, to observe their hourly and daily thoughts and keep a log or journal of what they were thinking and when. Think about that. Being that mindful, really tracking, what am I thinking? And students were surprised by what they noticed. One example is a student noticing a pattern of being angry and resentful when she cleaned the house, and realizing how much she was being affected by that and how much it was affecting her quality of life. But in noticing and admitting that dissatisfaction, she can now choose something different that will create greater freedom and joy in her life. And this is not what we would describe as a big life transition, but it could be a very powerful shift to her reclaiming greater freedom and joy for hours every week. Think of that, how many hours a week we could reclaim if we admitted what we were thinking now, where we are, and then give ourselves the freedom in the admitting to make a difference, to make a change. A bigger example is I've also been talking for a number of months with a friend who came to the realization that the job she was in was no longer a fit. I realize it's kind of a theme today, given my example of myself earlier. But she spent quite a few months examining her experience, feeling angry and resentful about the conditions because there were things going on in that job that she wouldn't have done that way, and her boss was this and somebody else was that. So she spent quite a bit of time being angry about that. But finally, she just admitted that whatever the conditions that were there, that was no longer the place for her, no longer a fit. The great job that she was in was no longer her great job. Admitting is not always easy, and it is a powerful way to initiate change. Eric Butterworth, a well-known author and teacher of spiritual principles, wrote a book called Spiritual Economics, which is the basis for a class Dr. Pat is teaching. I had the fun of filling in for her for a couple of weeks, and I found some meaningful gems that I will share with you, a couple of them through the rest of the talk. So Butterworth wrote, admit to yourself that your present experience, even the condition of your bank account, reflects your present level of awareness. You are not the victim of circumstances. When you establish yourself in this awareness, then you are in a position to change things. So once we admit we are dissatisfied, we open a door to the next stage, accepting what is and what can be. So accepting what is can seem scary. We may be judging ourselves or others. We may simply be uncertain of what may be ahead. What is useful to remember in this stage is that circumstances and life experiences come and go. They are not permanent. They have come to pass through our lives, offering us opportunities to love and to grow and to learn and to be fully human. There may be places in your life where acceptance is not your strong suit. You don't want to accept that someone else treats you a certain way. You don't want to accept that perhaps they're not going to change, that it's time for you to think about what do you want to do and how do you want to behave and act. One of the places I struggle with acceptance is in traffic. book. Everything I ever learned about life, I learned in traffic. So the other day I was turned onto Crowchild Trail, and I was going to take the turn for Memorial Drive to go to work. It's 7 in the morning, it was snowing. I'd gotten out there real early because I was going to beat the traffic. I didn't want to accept I hadn't beaten the traffic. Everybody else had the same idea. So there are a lot of us. So I see a big lineup for Memorial Drive. I have a choice. I could take the middle lane and take 9th Avenue, but I don't do that because I'm not accepting that there's a ton of traffic in front of me. So I head into the traffic, and now I'm in there, and now I don't want to accept that I made a poor decision. I don't want to accept that everybody else has a right to the road like I do. I don't want to accept that it's probably only going to be an extra 5 minutes on my drive, because I'm not very far from downtown. So I spent, the first 5 minutes of a 20-minute drive, like, yay, and then actually, though, I had the spiritual enlightenment to calm down a little bit and accept that there simply were lots of cars on the road. I had made some bad decisions, and to just let my life flow a little bit easier. So it seems a little silly to talk about traffic, and it's only 20 minutes, but where are you doing that in your life in small ways or big ways, where you just don't quite want to accept what is? Butterworth also wrote, and this is a little bit longer, so I'm not going to put it on the screen. He wrote, "Whatever the challenge, refuse to be panic-stricken. In the face of any challenge, affirm, I accept the reality of this situation, but not its permanence. The experience is there to be met. There's no use hiding your head in the sand. However, determine to meet it on your terms. Don't let the outer happening squeeze you into its box, but open your mind to the flow of wisdom and love and good judgment with which you can deal masterfully with it. It has come to pass. It has come to pass, not to stay. It has come to pass. Accept it, but accept it as a changing experience that is on its way out. Something better is on the way for you." My friend that's making the job transition has quit her job, and she's making the job transition. She's becoming, more empowered every day as she accepts the reality of her choice to leave her job and the emerging reality that she now has a great opportunity to create work that honors and rewards her. The fear she felt leaving the old situation has been replaced by excitement, ambition, self-respect, and self-love, and the faith that something better is on the way through her acceptance of what is. Moving on to the third action we can take. After we have admitted what we're thinking and what we're presently creating, after we have accepted what is and realized it's not permanent, our work is to allow our good to come to us. This stage can be a little tricky and challenging, not that the others weren't. And one reason for that is we sometimes try too hard, perhaps because we think we need to make it all happen by ourselves. And aren't we here to remember that we aren't alone? That there is this life inside of us that is always moving us forward. So I have a story. A Zen student goes to the temple and asks how long it will take him to gain enlightenment. 10 years, says the Zen master. How about if I really work and double my efforts, says the student. And the master responds, then it will take 20 years. In the dictionary, allow is defined as give the necessary time or opportunity for. It does not say struggle and work hard and know that change is difficult. It doesn't say no pain, no gain. And I turn you to the truth from another great metaphysical teacher who said, there is no try, only do. Yoda. This may seem like a contradiction, to do and not try, until we realize that in our teaching, we are very active. We don't go off to a chair and meditate, although if you choose to do this, more power to you. We don't go off to a chair and meditate and just don't do anything and expect life to rush in. However, the key is that our doing is on the mental and spiritual levels. We don't run around we try not to run around fixing the conditions. We do the work on the mental and spiritual levels. Our work is in pausing, turning our attention away from the problem, and meditating, envisioning our good, expanding our understanding, that in every moment we have all we need to live lives of joy and meaning. We practice allowing our good to come to us by envisioning it, trusting in ourselves and spirit, and relaxing into our spiritual destiny, our spiritual birthright of freedom and joy. Butterworth also describes an experiment at the University of Chicago in which a number of students were divided into 3 test groups. First, they were tested for proficiency at shooting baskets. Then the first group was told to go home and forget about it. The second group was told to come back every day for 30 days and for 1 hour a day, practice shooting baskets. The third group was told to find a quiet place at home where, 1 hour a day for 30 days, they were to imagine themselves throwing basketballs into the hoop. At the end of 30 days, the students were retested. Guess what the results were? The first group, who had gone home and done nothing, as expected, showed no improvement. The second group, that had practiced daily, showed an improvement of 24%. The third group, that had not touched a basketball, that had used only their imaginations, showed an improvement of 23%. This may sound almost impossible, but we can, and we do, prove this to ourselves all the time. When we think the worst, what unfolds? When we have a positive vision and we know something new and we stay with the idea, what happens? The better experience unfolds. So I'm not talking about having a positive thought every now and then, like buying a lottery ticket and on the way home envisioning the $14 million in your hands or in your bank account, and then turning on the radio and going back to worrying about the price of oil and the economy. So what we see on television, what's happening around us, all of this sort of calm and doom and gloom kind of stuff that we listen to all the time, is the appearance of things, not the spiritual reality. Meditating or practicing affirmations or spiritual mind treatment for 20 minutes, rather than watching the news or getting caught up in daily problems, will deepen our belief in a world that has enough for all, that is peace itself, in which all our dreams are possible. Remember, the definition of allowing is give the necessary time or opportunity for. That's our work on the mental and spiritual level. Increasing our receptivity, expanding the container. So in conclusion, I'm clear for me and for all of us that when we admit where we are, accept what is and know that it is not permanent, and allow our good to come to us, it is possible for every one of us to make powerful, satisfying, lasting changes and not get lost in transition. I want to leave you with some very beautiful words of China Galland, who was quoted to me recently. She's many things. Among them, she's an author, a spiritual activist, and a professor who has lectured at universities in the United States and internationally. Ms. Galland wrote, "There is a goodness, a wisdom that arises, sometimes gracefully, sometimes gently, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes fiercely, but it will arise to save us if we let it, and it arises from within us, like the force that drives us into a great blossoming, like a pear tree, into flowering, into fragrance, fruit, and song, into the wild wind dancing, sun shimmering, into the aliveness of it all, into that part of ourselves that can never be defiled, defeated, or destroyed, but that comes back to life, time and time again, that lives, always, that does not die, into the divine." Namaste, be well, and happy transitions.